Internal aids of interpretation refer to sources within a legal document that assist in comprehending and interpreting its meaning. These aids are inherent to the document itself and offer valuable insights for the interpretation process. Here are several common internal aids of interpretation. Titles of statutes. Titles within statutes serve as important references, providing a general understanding of the legislation's purpose. There are two main types: the short title, which provides a concise name for easy reference, example, Code of Civil Procedure 1908, and the long title, which provides a broad overview of the legislation's objective. For example, the long title of the Code of Civil Procedure states an act to consolidate and amend the laws relating to the procedure of the courts of civil judicature. Preamble. The preamble acts as the preface of a statute. It provides the objective and purpose of the act. If the provisions of the statute lead to ambiguity, the preamble can be used to interpret the statute. In the case of Keshavananda Bharati versus Union of India, the Supreme Court emphasized the importance of preamble in interpreting the provisions of the Constitution. In the case of State of West Bengal versus Anwar Ali, the constitutionality of Section 5 of West Bengal Special Courts Act 1950 was contested, which provided that the state government had the authority to designate cases for trial in special courts. The Supreme Court in this case relied on the preamble of the Act to conclude that the state government was indeed given the discretion to select cases for special court proceedings. Definitions. Legal statutes often include sections defining key terms crucial for interpreting specific words or phrases as intended by the legislature. The purpose of this is to avoid confusion when the term appears at various places in the statute. The definitions may be exhaustive or may be extensive. These definitions in legal texts use specific language. Means or shall mean implies a restrictive and exhaustive interpretation as seen in the definition of movable property under the Gender Clauses Act 1897. The definition says that movable property shall mean property of every description except immovable property. The word include implies an extensive interpretation illustrated in the definition of immovable property under the same Act. Immovable property shall include land, benefits to arise out of land, and things attached to the earth or permanently fastened to anything attached to the earth. In the case of Bhagwati Developers Private Limited versus Peerless Genera Finance Investment Company Limited, the Supreme Court emphasized that the definition of securities under the Securities Contract Regulation Act 1956 remains consistent with the statute to uphold its intended purpose. Marginal notes. Marginal notes found in the margins of legal statutes provide brief summaries of section content. While not legally binding, they may offer useful insights. In Bengal Immunity Company versus State of Bihar, the Supreme Court considered marginal notes for interpreting Article 286 of the Constitution, which provides for restrictions as to imposition of tax on the sale or purchase of goods to understand the meaning and purpose of the article. Headings. Headings prefixed to sections within statutes serve as internal aids to interpretation. Courts treat these headings as preambles to corresponding sections. In the case of N.C. Dondyal versus Union of India, the Supreme Court relied on the heading to interpret Section 36, subsection 2 of the Protection of Human Rights Act 1993. The court emphasized that one-year time frame mentioned under the heading "Matters not subject to the jurisdiction of the Commission" was not just procedural. It barred the Commission from investigating a matter once that period had elapsed. Illustrations. Sections of an act may include illustrations or examples to explain the provisions. These serve to help in the interpretation of the relevant section. Example: various sections of the Indian Penal Code and Indian Contract Act contain illustrations. However, the court may refuse to follow the illustrations depending on the facts of the case. In the case of Bengal and Nagpur Railway versus Rutanji Ramji, The court held that an illustration does not have the effect of modifying the language of the section, which alone forms the enactment. Stay tuned for part 2 of the video.